Ohio State's offensive line gelling at the right time as we welcome in Tony Gerdeman from BuckeyeHuddle.com. Gerd, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with that offensive line. As Ryan Day said, even if Zen Michalski is ready to go, we're content with keeping Carson Hinsman at left guard and Donovan Jackson at left tackle. Is that going to be the long-term solution for this season now?
Based on that first game and perhaps the worst environment that you could break a new offensive line in, the results speak for themselves, and I expect that to be the one going until the end of the season, provided everybody stays healthy. But they threw him into a very, very difficult situation, putting Donovan Jackson outside against a very, very talented pass rushing defensive end. Carson Hinsman playing left guard for the first time in a sustained amount of time in a game, and asking them to do all of that with a silent count, and then just relying on them and then running behind them as the game went on. That left side have to be thrilled there, and the right side doing what they do. And of course, Seth McLaughlin making it all run at center. Got to be really, really excited, because I don't think anybody expected us, and to see what they did, now you can start having some expectations, I think.
No false start penalties, no holding calls on that offensive line. And what a redemption story for Carson Hinsman. As we know the story, he started all last year at center until the final game of the season, lost his starting job. And in today's day and age, it'd be real easy for him to pack it in, hit the transfer portal, go someplace else. He stayed in Columbus, and when his team needed him the most, he came through with his best.
Yeah, and not only stayed in Columbus, was one of the Iron Buckeyes in the offseason for conditioning, weightlifting, and being on time and all of those things. And they're not a lot of those, and he was one of them. He could have quit. He could have gone into the portal. He could have done, found a starting job. Ohio State went and grabbed Alabama's starting center and basically said, he's our center now, and Carson Hinsman could have left. Instead, he stuck it out and had the support of his team and waited and dealt with an injury or dealt with an illness in camp, and was competing for a starting job with Tagra Shabola, and I think that illness kind of knocked him out of that race. But as you said, when he was called upon, he was ready, and they talked to him about it, and he was all gung-ho about getting that opportunity. And that experience that he got last year paid off this year, to pay off next year, and to pay off the year after that.
Granted, we have the caveat that it was against Penn State, and Penn State finds ways to lose games against Ohio State. But the defensive effort against the Nittany Lions, the best defensive effort we've seen all season from Ohio State.
Yeah, and it's getting more and more closer to what Jim Knowles likes to do, or what he's done most of his career. So you're seeing just a little bit more chaos, and you can create chaos and live with the chaos when you have Ohio State's secondary and the safeties that they have back there. And you just look at that last play for Penn State, the goal line stand. Your two safeties make the plays in terms of coverage, and everybody's expecting a run, but those two, Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs, defended the pass perfectly, and they did their job. So you can have a lot of guys running around. You can have a lot of moving parts. When you've got security in the back end, they can make up for any kind of missed tackles or missed assignments. And, you're going to make more plays than you give up generally when you've got as much talent as Ohio State does. So it's been interesting watching them lean into that sort of chaos aspect of creating plays defensively.
Whoa. You talk about Caleb Downs making plays. According to the message boards, he's been a disappointment. He doesn't have the same stats as he had last year when he was with Alabama.
Yeah, could he make more tackles? Maybe if Ohio State's defense was on the field more. He made 107 tackles. You don't want your safety making that many tackles. And so he's doing everything that Ohio State needs him to do, and he's happy to do it. And he has made some touchdown saving tackles, but he's also in coverage. He's also making plays where the ball is now no longer able to go because he's there. You don't need your safety making 107 tackles like he did. You don't need a true freshman doing it either. What they were getting from Caleb Downs, they'll take it 7 days a week.
Jim Knowles bragged about his vision, Caleb Downs' vision. And when you have a vision like that, you can anticipate plays. You make plays by not allowing plays to happen in front of you, which is one of the things Caleb Downs has been so good at. So the offensive line, the defense, both strong points against Penn State. But if we're going to nitpick, and that's what Ohio State loves to do when it comes to the Buckeye fans, we're going to nitpick about Will Howard and the turnovers against the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, this offense, if he could just cut those out and get rid of those 1 to 2 to 3 bad plays each week that he has, that they don't necessarily overshadow everything else, but they cast a shadow amongst all of the other things he does. But the pick six and then fumbling the ball right there at the goal line cost Ohio State. It was a 14-point swing right there, and it could have been a much different outcome for Ohio State in terms of losing that game that you had no business losing. And he made a bad read, got a situation that he wasn't necessarily looking for or expecting on that interception, but he bounces back really well every time he's thrown an interception. And you've seen them respond. You've seen him respond. After he threw that interception, he went right to the sideline. He's like, "I'm fine. Don't worry about it. I'm good." And you saw that response from him. But you just wonder, like, how good could this offense be? How good could Will Howard be if you could just eliminate the 1 or 2 bad throws and that one wonky fumble or whatever per game? And as they get closer and closer to the postseason, 2 plays like that from your quarterback is generally going to be the difference in a game.
And on Tuesday, both Ryan Day and Will Howard were asked, how confident are you that Will Howard can lead this team to a national championship? And of course, they both said they were very confident in that fact. And I think even Will Howard said, if I wasn't confident, that'd be a bigger issue.
Yeah, for sure. And those were the answers you'd expect. And, if Will Howard's like shrugging his shoulders, like, I don't know, that's a good question. I wish I could tell you, then, you've got the wrong guy. But it's been interesting watching him become a leader. And I think Ryan Day even said he's the leader of the team. I don't know. He's not a captain, but he's your quarterback, and every quarterback is a leader. And he's grown in that role. And you've seen the emotion that he plays with now, and the team rallies around him. So I don't think they get down or get, flustered by the 1 or 2 plays, because they see the 59 to 65 other plays that he's making and he's involved with. So I think the confidence is high right now in him, and he knows what he can and can't do. It's just hard to ask. It's hard to be perfect, but also when you make the mistakes that are capitalized on like immediately, then they're going to be even more glaring. And so you got to be better situational awareness and things like that. But I think what they've gotten from him this year exceeded my expectations. I think it's exceeded a lot of expectations around the country.
Buckeyes back at home this Saturday taking on Purdue, a 1-7 Purdue Boilermaker team. Their only victory was against Indiana State, an FCS team in week 1. And multiple times, Ryan Day said, hey, I know what the record is, but I think this is a pretty good Purdue football team. I couldn't see if his nose was growing every time he said that, but it sure didn't feel like it's true based on the statistics that Purdue is a good football team.
Ironically, it was like Ryan Day was channeling his inner Lou Holtz and talking up the opponent, no matter who they are, and about how they can do this or they can do that. I mean, it's a Big Ten team, so they can certainly do some things, but it was kind of a pointed thing. It was like, hey, Penn State was last week. We've got a game this week, and if the players think they can just go out there and roll the helmets out and it's going to be a win, they're going to be sorely mistaken. So I understand him talking this way, because they need to come back down from that Penn State win and get ready to play a level game. Just like when they came off that Oregon game, that Oregon loss, they were so down, they couldn't get up for the Nebraska game. So they need to find a happy medium to, that Penn State game is great, but it's over. And that game isn't going to help you win this game. You've got to execute in this game, and you've got to deal with the Purdue defense. You've got to deal with the Purdue offense, the special teams, and all of those things. You've got to deal with your job. And I think this will be an interesting opportunity. It'll be a good opportunity for Ohio State to get some young guys out there that maybe they haven't been able to play as much the last few weeks because the games have been close. So you'll get an opportunity for the veterans to have an opportunity to just play well, get out to an early start, throw some domination on the field, and build up some confidence, and then give way to some young players, ideally.
Purdue hasn't won in Columbus since the late 80s. We're well familiar with the Boilermakers and what Purdue has done against Ohio State in West Lafayette, but there's no Rondell Moore on this Purdue team. And if you look at statistics, they're in the bottom third, the bottom 3 in most major statistics when it comes to the Big Ten. This is not a good Purdue team in any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, it's so bad that your head coach has taken over the offensive play calling, and he's a defensive guy. So that's almost unheard of for that to happen. And so they're searching for answers. They don't have many good ones at this point, and you wonder if Ryan Walters will be back next year, or if it's time to just make a clean break and try. I'm sure it doesn't help that they're seeing what's going on in Indiana with 1 year of Curt Cignetti and how things are going there, and Purdue's looking at what they've got going and or not going, and wondering what can we do in the span of a year to change things. And there's a lot that needs fixed there, and I think we'll see evidence of that on Saturday.
Ohio, the birthplace of astronauts John Glenn and Neil Armstrong, but Neil Armstrong graduated from Purdue. I think it would be a small step for Ohio State to beat the Boilermakers, but a giant leap for the Boilermakers to pull off this upset. I want to thank our guest, Tony Gerdeman from BuckeyeHuddle.com. Gerd, thank you once again.
Thank you.